It is Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Did I say that right? Uh, Ignore the beanie. I actually just walked in the door from a 5-hour road trip back from Mammoth. I was snowboarding all weekend. And you don't want to see what's under the beanie. My hair is snowboarding hair. Hi, Brianna. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. Um, we'll kind of dork around here for a bit while we wait on people to join on. Hope you're having a good week, everybody. So one thing that I think is super cool, and I actually did not plan for this at all, when I started creating the polls on the Facebook group, I just randomly made them for Mondays, but so far the last 2 Mondays, the polls have given me perfect ammo for what to start talking about on our lives on Monday nights. Hello, good timing. Eddie, awesome to see you. Jeff, good to see you. Got some new names popping up. I've already said I just walked in the door from driving home from snowboarding all weekend, hence the ridiculous hat on my head. I didn't really have any other options but to leave it on there because I have, well, today was skiing hair. So I was just saying the polls are really creating some good info, I think, for us to talk about on these lives. So as you guys jump on here, if you have any burning turnkey questions at all, go ahead and type them in. We'll get around to those for sure. I'm sure we'll have some more people joining us. So I thought something really cool to talk about. The poll from today, I don't even know today's date, because we are now posting these videos on YouTube also. So for anyone watching this on YouTube, you don't know what day it is, most likely. It is Monday, December 9th. So if you guys are watching the recorded version of this on YouTube or somewhere else, not inside of the group, this is Facebook Live every week from the Turnkey Rental Properties Facebook group. Not to be confused with turnkey vacation rentals, which apparently seems to be a thing now that everybody's confusing us. There is a company called Turnkey Vacation Rentals. I've kind of looked into them, but I'm not even completely sure what they do. Margot and Alex, ooh, we got some, I was about to say old timers. That's not what I meant. Veteran members, how about that? Hi, Alex. Margot, I don't know if you saw, I posted on, what's the date from this post? Somebody asked about roof stock. Maybe we will, if we have some time today, maybe we'll actually talk about roof stock and my opinions. Somebody basically asked, it's from December 7th. Terrence said, does roof stock qualify as a turnkey provider? And if so, what do you guys think about them? And I said, Margot, do you want to start with this one? And I'll chime in later. So I actually haven't gotten around to answering this. Drew, awesome to see you as usual. For anyone tuning in, I literally just walked in the door from a 5-hour drive home from skiing. So hence the get up situation here. So Margot, if you're interested in sharing your experience, you absolutely do not have to. You're the one person I know who has roof stock experience. So we'll come back to roof stock. I don't know why I can't say it today. Roof stock. My personal opinions about them. We'll get some other things done here first. If we don't get around to it today, I will type out my opinion on that post. Just making sure you guys still know I still have hair here. Drew says looking good with the beanie. Hi, David. Thank you guys all for joining. Yeah, I said earlier, you don't want to see what's going on under the beanie because this is full on ski hair, and there was a helmet on earlier, and it's a big disaster. So I thought I would start while we wait on people to join. If you're just joining, go ahead and type in whatever turnkey questions you might have. I lost my spot here. So today's poll, it said, what interests you the most about the turnkey strategy? And the options were, and of course you guys can always add more options, being as hands-off as possible, in parentheses, no late night toilet repair calls. That is by far in the lead from everybody. That one honestly is pretty self-explanatory. Turnkey, the reason I phrased it as being as hands-off as possible is under no circumstances, if you have watched any of these before, Are turnkeys absolutely hands-off? I am one of the famous culprits for calling them hands-off rental properties in the earlier days. The ebook still calls them hands-off rental properties. I have learned that that was a mistake to market it that way. I've seen that marketing cause a lot of problems as far as people thinking they don't need to do anything. This actually kind of lends to one of my roof stock opinions, but I will keep you guys in suspense for those for a bit. So as hands-off as possible is very key to understand. It does not mean 100% hands-off. If you are 100% hands-off, meaning your brain's not attached, something's probably bound to go wrong. Maybe not, and if it doesn't at that point, you've gotten lucky. If you own real property as an investor, you should never assume that you're 100% hands-off for anything. Your brain should still be in the equation. I cannot stress that enough. But with that said, yay to turnkeys, because they are one of the most hands-off ways to own real property. So you have options like investing in REITs or stocks or notes or syndications or any crowdfunding or whatever. And those things are super hands-off. Like, you actually really can be incredibly passive, but there are a lot of benefits lost in not owning the actual real property. So when you buy a turnkey, you own actual real property, which makes a big difference. I should be taking notes because I'm giving myself ideas on what to, I didn't bring a post-it with me, talk about if we have some time. So I'm going to put roof stock on here and benefits of owning real property. We're going to come back to those if we have time. But you guys keep shooting in your questions. What I would like to talk about that I don't think we have ever talked about on a live or maybe even in the group period, my little cord here is kind of getting tangled up here, is option number 2. So in second place, as far as what interests you guys the most about the turnkey strategy, first being as hands-off as possible, i.e. no late night toilet repair calls. The second place winner so far is seems like an easier entry into real estate investing. I am so glad you guys answered this and that you're aware that it is possibly an easier entry into real estate investing. And this is a very big topic that I'm an advocate of, that I am shocked I haven't brought it up sooner in this group or on these lives. It looks weird when I have one thing going. So I have an article out. I can share it with you guys. I think it was called something like, "Are turnkey rental properties a good thing for newbies?" I have people ask all the time, like, I want to get into real estate investing. I'm a newbie investor. Where do turnkeys fall into that? Are they good for newbies? Are they bad for newbies? Like, where do you stand on that? And actually, in support, okay, I'm going to get super dorky here. And I might waste a little bit of time. But since I literally just walked in the door from a snowboarding and skiing weekend, I treated myself. If you guys are familiar with, if you're a skier or snowboarder or familiar with California ski slopes, Mammoth got dumped on this weekend, and I knew it was coming, and I wanted to go powder chasing. So in support of that, I actually... I'm going to have to find the article. I'm going to make a note to myself because I don't know where it is right now, and I don't want to waste time on here looking for it, but I will post it in the chat when I find it. I actually wrote an article using snowboarding at the time. I didn't ski at the time. Now I do both. Snowboarding as an analogy for why turnkeys are actually really good for new investors. If you guys are familiar with snowboarding at all, or even if you're not, but you may have heard the term. So you have, if you're snowboarding, and this goes for skiing also. Let's say you're snowboarding. Most of us go to a ski resort. We hop on the lift. We get taken up to the mountain, and we swish swash our way down to the bottom. There's also backcountry snowboarding, where I did this one time, and I'm pretty athletic. There's been very few things. I can think of 2 things athletically that have kicked my butt. Like, truly, I was not good at them. I might leave you in suspense for the second one because it's hilarious, but backcountry snowboarding was one of them. I was a snowboarder at the time. I was not super good, probably intermediate at best. And keep in mind, I live in Southern California, so I live at sea level 0. And I was visiting a friend in Colorado, and she had a friend who, where they live, there was an abandoned ski resort. And this abandoned ski resort was at 10,000 feet above sea level. Problem number one. And this friend backcountry snowboarded all the time. So basically backcountry, you're off, as they say in Europe, off piste. You are not on trails, you're not on groomed trails, and in this case, you don't even have a lift. You literally are hiking up this mountain with snow, what do you call them? Snowshoes, snow things, carrying your board. Oh, I always do that. Carrying your board. I was carrying my board on my back. She had a split board, so she was kind of like using those to get up the mountain. We climbed 1,000 feet. So somebody who lives at sea level, climbing through fresh powder, meaning every time my foot went down, my foot went in like 3 or 4 inches, had to bring it back out, climbed straight up a mountain in fresh powder for 1,000 feet at 10,000 feet above sea level. I was dying. But in support of that story and the hell that it was terrible. Oh, it was terrible. I've not tried backcountry since then. I'm sure there's easier ways to do it, but I was terrible at it. And so I was motivated to write this article about using this analogy of backcountry snowboarding versus regular snowboarding and real estate investing. And here's kind of how the analogy went. Let's say you want to learn to snowboard. Snowboarding, and I like snowboarding as this example better than skiing. Skiing is usually a little bit easier to learn. It takes longer and it's harder to master, but you can pretty much get on skis almost immediately and do some kind of functioning. Snowboarding is oddly hard. They say snowboarding is way harder to learn, but once you get it, you kind of get it. Like there's not really a mastering of snowboarding, but it does take longer. I mean, even standing on this wide, slippery board is tough. So let's say you want to learn to snowboard. So snowboarding by itself, if you've never done it, even if you are kind of athletic, it takes a minute to learn it. Like you have to kind of get your balance. You have to figure out how to stand. You have to figure out how to scoot because you have one foot attached to the board. And then when you start down the hill, you kind of start and you go, you don't really change directions. You're just kind of, they call it feathering down the mountain. And then once you kind of get the feel for feathering, which means you kind of get the feel for staying on the board, now all of a sudden you have to learn to turn directions to go down the board. So it's this matter of like your hip movement, your body movement, and all the while you're zooming down a mountain on the snow. So if you're trying to learn to snowboard for the first time, and if for anyone on here who has done that, it is not easy. Like it really, I mean, they say like you should never try and learn to snowboard with less than 3 days back to back because it's going to take you that long to really kind of get the feel for it. I find that to be fairly accurate. There's already a lot to learn about snowboarding. Now, let's look at regular snowboarding. You go to the ski resort, you hop on the lift, which getting on the lift alone is a little bit of a skill. Not even so much getting on the lift, getting off. I've been snowboarding for years and I still sometimes roll off the lift. It's not graceful. So this lift takes you to the top of the mountain. The only thing that you need to learn is the snowboarding itself. Just the mechanics of the snowboard, just how to move down the mountain on the snowboard, and I mean standing on the snowboard, the basic fundamentals. And I promise you that is hard enough. Now let's look at backcountry snowboarding. First of all, chances are you don't have a lift to take you up the hill. How are you getting up the hill? It's a whole different skill set. It's going to involve snowshoes. It's like, how are you going to carry this board on your back? Or are you going to have a split board? What are these different dynamics for it? Look, I'm even talking about backcountry snowboarding and I'm already getting, oh, it was terrible. You know, there's this whole slew of things that go into backcountry snowboarding where at that point, the sport itself is not, you're not just snowboarding at that point. You are learning a whole different skill set on top of trying to learn to snowboard. So hopefully, if you're backcountry snowboarding, you already know how to snowboard because unless you're either from Colorado or super athletic or nature or whatever, I cannot imagine learning to snowboard backcountry. Like it's hard enough to already know how to snowboard and then add backcountry on top of it if you're talking like true hard backcountry. So do you see my two analogies here? So snowboarding by itself is very hard. Learning it is very hard. Once you get it, pretty smooth sailing. You're still gonna, I mean, I still wear a helmet. I actually can't even move my neck right now because I took a hard fall on some powder yesterday, which sounds weird, but I edge caught the powder. You're gonna be learning the whole way, but once you get it, you can kind of start learning and doing whatever you want to. You can try steeper hills, you can try backcountry, you can try moguls, you can try trees, you can try all these things, but when you just learn to snowboard, you have learned the core fundamentals of snowboarding. And then you can kind of branch off and do whatever you want with it. Backcountry snowboarding, let's say you try and learn to snowboard the first time doing backcountry. You're not just learning the snowboarding fundamentals. You're having to learn a whole other slew of very difficult things on top of learning how to snowboard. And keep in mind, by the time you figure out how to get to the top of the mountain and figure out all those other things, you now have to come down the mountain, which, again, if you're learning how to snowboard, you're not on a groomed, nice, smooth trail like you would be at a resort. You're in the backwoods. So you're probably hopping over things, falling in powder, all this whatever. So the analogy is, look at all the advanced things that you have to learn in addition to the fundamentals of snowboarding if you were to learn to snowboard backcountry. Versus if you go to the lift or to the ski resort where you have a lift to take you up, you have a perfectly smooth hill to come down, you have different gradients, everything is suited towards your learning. At that point, you only have to learn the fundamentals of snowboarding. Again, once you learn the fundamentals, it's easier to branch out and start doing harder things. Now, who understands my analogy here? This is where turnkeys come in. I see questions coming in, so I'm going to come, let's see, I'm going to see if anything's cross-country. And for the really uncoordinated bunch of us, cross-country skiing. Yes. Okay, yeah, cross-country could be a fantastic analogy. And I've also tried that. I am also not very good at that. Okay, cool. We have some other questions. So I'll finish with the analogy, but the analogy is the same. So snowboarding, there is a difference between learning the fundamental core things of snowboarding to the point where you can functionally snowboard versus the backcountry issues. Backcountry is like a whole big advanced version of learning to snowboard. So would you learn to snowboard backcountry? Again, maybe some people, not me, maybe, but like think of the amount of time it would take you to learn basic snowboarding, and like because you have all these other advanced complicated challenges to learn on top of it versus just learning the fundamentals. So here's why I like going all the way back full circle to real estate. This is why I support turnkey rental properties for newbies, for brand new investors, because even if you are planning to flip houses or burr model, all this advanced stuff, the advanced stuff like rehabbing, negotiating, neighborhood selecting, landlording, all these things to me are the equivalent of the backcountry things. It's all this advanced, riskier stuff that is going to cloud you learning the fundamentals. So think of turnkeys as your opportunity to just learn the fundamentals. What do you learn when you're doing to successfully invest in a turnkey rental property? What do you need to know? How to run numbers. Hello, critical, fundamental. I mean, here's the two things, numbers and due diligence. Those two things alone, if you know how to do both of those, the entire course of your real estate career from here on out is going to be completely different and way more successful. Those two things alone will let you pretty much conquer anything. So because all of the hard stuff is done for you with a turnkey, it opens up this chance for you to spend time focusing on those fundamentals. Why certain markets and not other markets? How to run the numbers? How to conduct due diligence? What is due diligence even, like, what am I looking for? How do you know what you don't know? What questions should you be asking? What things matter? Let's say after you own the turnkey, it's just like now owning a rental property. Now you're managing property managers versus managing tenants and toilets. Managing property managers is not flawless and can be really frustrating, but it's not as difficult as managing toilets and tenants. So turnkeys to me are like the equivalent in my snowboarding analogy of being able to just learn the basics, learn the core. And then once you learn that core, sure, branch off and do whatever you want to, like do the advanced stuff, learn to rehab, learn to negotiate, learn to do everything the turnkey seller does for you, learn all of these things after you've learned the fundamentals. If you're trying to learn the fundamentals in a harder strategy, flipping, burring, you're adding rehabs and negotiating and all this kind of like extensive management, whatever on top of it, you're distracting yourself from really being able to focus on those fundamentals. So I'll stop with the snowboarding analogy. For anyone who just tuned in, this was my response to our turnkeys, good for newbies. And I think the primary reason that they're fantastic for newbies is they take off the pressure of having to do all the hard, risky stuff, and they let you focus on learning the core things that will make you more successful in any real estate investment strategy you do later down the road. So there's my soapbox. Okay, so let's go to the comments. David says, before I do that, let me say hi to Luis, Kalani, Maria, Travis. Thank you guys for joining. I lost my spot. For anyone who just joined, I literally just walked in the door from skiing all weekend, and I have helmet and hat hair, hence why I'm still in my ski beanie or my snowboarding beanie, and also why I just gave a very extensive analogy, snowboarding analogy about why turnkeys are awesome for new folks. Okay. David asks, is it possible for a lender or appraiser recommended by a turnkey provider to adjust the appraisal report to favor the provider? This came up in a post last week, and I don't remember which post right off the bat. The question was asked, and I think we've hit this in previous lives, and David, this is not gonna, the true answer to your question is I don't know. I don't know the logistics of how that works. I'm sure in this day and age and world, anything is possible. I will say, however, I've never heard of it happening. And to speak to turnkey providers recommending certain lenders, I can't for the life of me think of which post this was on last week, but I will speak to that. For example, the turnkey provider should not provide your property inspection during due diligence. That needs to be a third party because, hello, biased. And they have a stake in what the inspector says. So you don't want someone related to the seller in that case. That is a very different story than with the lenders. So a lot of people are suspicious. Oh, it was a post about, we had a big conversation about our turnkeys. Should you buy a turnkey priced over market value, which is the answer is no. I get on that soapbox quite often, but so the suspicion was, well, if turnkey providers are recommending a certain lender, are those lenders in their pocket, so to speak, good pun, in their pocket, so to speak, to adjust the appraisal to, so the lender is not the appraiser. The lender hires the appraiser. The appraiser appraises your property to determine the value of the property. The question / suspicion is it possible that the turnkey provider's recommended lender, who they suggest that you use, them and their appraiser are in the pockets with a turnkey provider for that appraiser to appraise that property higher than it should have been. Again, it's 2019, and I'm sure anything in this world is possible. I have never seen that to be the case. The sole reason, and I do know this for a fact, because I've been on the selling side of turnkeys now, so I started as a buyer, jumped over to the selling side. I kind of wore both hats. I know for a fact that the reason the turnkey providers recommend you use certain lenders is because I can say in how long ago did I start this? 2011, 8 years of working with turnkey buyers. Any turnkey buyer, I'd say 95% of turnkey buyers who say, I want to use my own lender, 95% of those deals never close. Most lenders in this nation are focused on primary home buyers, which is a different loan than an investment property loan. I mean, they're not drastically different, but the logistics are slightly different on the lending side, not so much for you other than your interest rate is different, but the logistics are different. If you were to walk into a Wells Fargo or Bank of America or any of the big banks and say, hey, I want to buy an investment property, can I get a loan through you? They're going to be like, yeah, no problem. They're never going to close it because they don't work with enough investors to they could navigate those waters, but someone like Wells Fargo, they're so focused on primary, they're not gonna, it's not worth their time to deal with a solo investor here, whatever. Big banks will not close your investment properties. And a lot of lenders also don't deal with investment properties. So when it comes to those little ins and outs of those loans, I swear to you, I swear on whatever you want me to swear on, 95% of people I've seen bring their own lenders, the properties just don't close for no other reason than the lender is not used to lending on something like that. And if you think about it, let's say you live in, I don't know, Washington or Oregon or California, and you're buying this property in Indiana, and you're working with a lender who works in different, they're gonna be like, what are you buying? Like, first of all, lender needs to be licensed in the state that you're of the property that you're buying. So that's one factor. And then they're just not accustomed to doing investment properties, and especially something called a turnkey rental property. They're like, what? We have no idea what you're talking about. And the loans just don't close. So I have seen it time and time again where someone wants to use their own lender. And if you think about it, when the turnkey provider they go find the property, they rehab the and this is the standard turnkey model, not the Berkey model. They rehab the property, they place tenants in it, and they sell it to you, the investor. That whole time leading up to the point where they sell it to you, their money's tied up. And they need that money to go buy more properties to be able to offer more properties. So the longer their money is tied up, the more complications it causes. They need to offload that property. That's why oftentimes they may try and convince you to buy it without tenants. Not a fan of that, but that's kind of why that happens. It matters to them how much they can't hold the property forever. So think about it. You bring your own lender and your lender's like, yeah, I'll close it, no problem. If you've been through the lending process, you know it is, I mean, you might as well give them your left arm, your firstborn child, and your dog, because it is just excruciatingly intensive. So you bring your own lender, you go under contract for this turnkey property. The lender gets to day 29 before closing, and then they're like, oh yeah, we're not gonna be able to do this one. Sorry. And you're like, wait, what? The turnkey provider, who already hates dealing with financing anyways, because they don't honestly need us who finance it. They have enough cash buyers, but they kind of humor it. Now, this loan isn't going to work. Now you have to switch lenders. That basically resets the clock, and now you're looking at another 30 to 45 days. That is crucial time to the turnkey provider. It's frustrating time for you. Now you have to go through this long, extensive process of getting all your obnoxious paperwork to the lender. It is hell on wheels, ladies and gentlemen, to have to redo, like to start over on a loan while you're under contract. So that is why turnkey providers give you a recommended lender, because these recommended lenders, and I know this for a fact, they close these loans. They're used to them. They work primarily with investors. They know what they're dealing with. If somebody's living, you know, if there's a whole bunch of different logistics, somebody's living abroad, if someone's got a job situation, they are used to investors. Investors are a very different breed than primary home buyers. So these lenders that they're recommending know this space, and they will close your deals. So that's why it's behooving to the turnkey provider to recommend that you use their lender, which you absolutely don't have to do. But again, I've seen so few turnkeys close when people try and use their own lenders. That is the only reason. I'd be the first one to tell you if I saw something different, if there was appraisal finagling, if there was any kind of shady anything about why turnkey providers recommend lenders. Legally, they can't even, they don't even get a cut from the lender. You can't, that's commingling, not commingling, but like in real estate, you can get referral fees from different people, but from lending to brokers or whatever, you legally can't do it. So they're not getting paid to do it. They just know that those loans will close. And if they don't, then they can't, I mean, no one else is going to do it. So to your point about, so your question was, is it possible for a recommended lender appraiser by a turnkey provider to adjust the appraisal report to favor the provider? Again, I'm sure anything's possible, but if you think about it, really, the appraiser is not that tied to the lender, and the lender, I mean, I don't want to say they're not that tied to the turnkey provider, but it's just, I don't, like, there's a lot of room for shady stuff to go on, but I've never seen it in this arena. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions to that. Eddie says, what are the best ways to finance turnkey properties? So I always love recommending Drew's article. If you go to the announcement section in the Turnkey group, there's an announcement welcoming people to the group, what the group's about, and there's another post saying something about creative financing for turnkeys. Drew, who is on here now, if he's still on here, has creatively financed several turnkey properties, and we got to, I say we got together, I published it. He wrote the whole thing. He was kind enough to write out all the different things that he's used. So there's a lot of creative financing options. Check out that article. As far as the easiest way to finance turnkey properties, all day long, if you qualify for traditional mortgage, I absolutely recommend it. Or you said best ways, because it's certainly not the easiest way, because like I said, if anyone here has gotten a mortgage lately, I mean, I would sooner just saw my left arm off. It's terrible. But traditional mortgages are going to give you by far the lowest interest rate. So it's the cheapest money you can loan, or cheapest loan you can get, I should say. I'm a big fan of maxing. I don't want to say maxing that out because I feel like that could give people ammo to go get themselves in trouble. But, you know, there's a certain number of mortgages we can get. I'm always a big fan of trying to get as many mortgages as you can, because you're not going to find cheaper money anywhere else. After that, there are private loans. It's going to be higher down payment, higher interest rates. Check out Drew's article, and then definitely, you know, once you check that stuff out, let me know and we can keep talking about it. Maria, this is a fantastic question because I forget how often I see this question, and it should get talked about more. It says, is it possible to negotiate the price for a turnkey property? Turnkey providers do not negotiate. The only time in the 8 years that I've been dealing with turnkey rental properties that I have ever seen a turnkey provider negotiate is if something weird happens with the appraisal. Most times, if the appraisal comes in that much lower than the purchase price, they're going to say, hey, this isn't going to appraise for you. Like, let's get you out of this property and into another property. They're usually, I mean, at least the turnkey providers I work with are very conducive to that. I have seen it in the past where they, instead of doing that, they will adjust. I haven't actually seen it recently, though. I don't want to say never, maybe a couple of years ago to a few years ago. Occasionally an appraisal would come in notably lower, and they would either meet the person in the middle, split the difference, or I guess this was back in the old days, maybe they would kind of come down. So that's the only negotiating I have ever seen from a turnkey provider, is if it has something to do with the appraisal and the valuation of the property. The reason turnkey providers don't negotiate on their price, well, there's a big reason and kind of a less obvious reason. So the big reason is they just don't need your business. I try and tell people this all day long. Last week's Facebook Live, if you go back and watch the recording, I went through a long spiel about how people don't understand that turnkey providers are not in the customer service business. This is real estate investing. This is not customer service. This is not primary home buying. This is not coddling. This is investments. True hardcore investors only care about the numbers in the deal. That's it. People get kind of tripped up with turnkey providers because it's newer investors, it's maybe not as hardcore investors, and they're expecting a customer service level, which some turnkey providers will offer, but when they don't, or if they don't, people get suspicious, and it's this whole big thing. But kind of under that umbrella is what people don't understand also is the turnkey providers don't need your business. First of all, that's why customer service is not that big a deal for most of them. And they and with financing too, they're not going to put up with like over dramatic financing drama. In 2011 and 2012, when I started buying turnkeys, and turnkeys were, I mean, properties everywhere were flying off the shelves because everything was on sale. Turnkeys had really made a name for themselves. People were buying these things like crazy, me being one of them. I would say more turnkey providers than not stopped accepting financing. You had to buy for all cash, because anytime financing was in the equation, it held them up. Like I said, it held up their money. It double, like and you can normally close on a property in 2 weeks if you're paying cash after you do your property inspection and stuff. With financing, you're looking at a minimum of 30 to 45 days. And this was also when lending, all the lenders were freaking out, so the underwriters were going excessive, so it was taking sometimes 60 days to close a loan. A lot of turnkey providers slammed the door to financing and said, sorry, we don't have time or patience or interest in this, because there were so many cash buyers. Keep in mind, turnkey providers aren't just selling to US citizens who are getting traditional loans. They have a lot of international buying channels, and the international buying channels are buying for cash. Hedge funds are buying for cash. Turnkey providers do not need our business. Us little, we buy, even if we buy 4 to 5 properties, yeah, it's great for them, but they're not going to keel over if they don't have that. So as terrible as it sounds, none of us turnkey investors should think we're special, truly. So for that reason, because they don't need your business, there's no reason for them to negotiate. Now, I'm kind of in the turnkey marketing side. As far, there's like turnkey providers who have the actual houses. There's us turnkey marketers or turnkey promoters. Some people call us different things. And then the buyers. So us marketers and promoters, we work with several turnkey providers. So if you come to me and you say, hey, I'm interested in buying turnkey rental property, what do you recommend? I can be like, what's your budget? What's your interest? What are your goals? Because different markets match different things. Now, the teams that I work with, you guys don't know this, but I know that they have already pre-negotiated deals. They have made this relationship with the turnkey provider and said, look, we're going to bring you a lot of buyers. We trust you. We like your service. We like what you're selling. But at the same token, we're going to bring you a lot of business. What can you do for our people? So in a lot of cases, if you go direct to a provider, I can't tell you anything. I don't know what they're selling it to you for. I don't know if this is why people think they should pay over market value for a turnkey, which is not true. I don't know about going direct to them. But if you work with certain marketers, turnkey marketer company, what do you call these? Turnkey marketing companies? I don't know. The teams I work with have already pre-negotiated deals. So the price tag that you see has already been negotiated a certain amount. So that's a secondary, less obvious, not true to all cases, reason why they're also not going to negotiate. So, but the big one is they don't need your business. I hate how that sounds, but it's reality. David, I'm not sure why some turnkey providers want to control. Hang on, before I do this, let me say hi to anyone. Doug and Blair, thanks for joining. I want to make sure Travis, or maybe I already said hi. Thank you guys all for hopping on. I don't want to leave anybody out. So David says, I'm not sure why some turnkey providers want to control everything, including recommending a home inspector, lender, appraiser, and insurance broker. I'm beginning to think that the providers have a hidden agenda. What are your thoughts on this? So this is a great question because it falls in line. I already hit the lending and appraising side, which was, in case anyone missed it, the only reason I've seen turnkey providers recommend a certain lender, which therefore comes with, and they work with multiple appraisers. It's not just like appraiser that works in their office. The appraisers are a separate entity, really. But the only reason I see them recommend the lender who comes with the appraiser is because they want the loans to actually close. That is truly the only thing I've seen. I absolutely do not agree with a turnkey provider offering a home inspector. That is very obvious. It needs to be a third party because it's like, I mean, hello, that guy could be in his pocket all day long. I have a note here to address my opinions about roof stock, but one of my things with roof stock, and Margot, who's on here, can say this for sure, but one thing, roof stock, I see where their intentions are, and I'm sure that they're the best of intentions, but one thing I don't like about roof stock is they have really, over the years, tried to offer investors things that I think they probably think are helpful. Like, the property comes with an inspection already. Hey, don't do your own due diligence, we'll do it for you. I see why they think that would be cool, because it's like, hey, let's keep the buyers hands off as possible. Okay, cool, but that teaches terrible things for being an investor. Nobody ever, I don't care if it's your dear grandmammy, no one should do due diligence for a deal except you. period. I don't care who the company is. I don't care if they're the nicest, most church-going people on the planet who have never lied to a soul. As an investor, you should never outsource due diligence. That is the one thing you are responsible for. And if anything happens outside of that because you didn't do due diligence, sorry, dude, it's on you. You cannot complain about anybody or anything because that is your responsibility. So that's one of my beefs with Roofstock is they have conveyed a message of, oh, don't worry about that. We'll do that for you. So I accidentally kind of went on a soapbox about that, but that's not even my, I'll keep my Roofstock note here, but that Roofstock is one of those people who offers you a property inspection. I would decline it all day long. There's no reason the provider should be the one offering the inspection or the inspector at all. You mentioned insurance broker. I think that's up to you. I don't see any harm in that one. I don't see where a turnkey provider, if they were being shady or not even meaning to be shady, I don't know where they would benefit by giving you an insurance broker. Like, what are they going to get a cut of the deal? Like, how much do you pay in insurance? Like, I don't see where a margin for a referral fee or something under the table would happen there. I just don't see what the benefit would be with that. But for insurance brokers, I think everybody should call a few. Like, who do you use for your primary home insurance or your renter's insurance or your car insurance? Whoever you like, call them. I will say I don't know much about insurance because every insurance that I can, if you have any military ties and you're not already using USAA, all day long, they cost me more, but they are one of the best companies on the planet, but you have to have military ties to use them. So if you do have military ties, go with USAA all day long. But that's why I can't really recommend insurance providers because I just use USAA. But I will say you don't necessarily maybe want to go with the cheapest because you want to make sure that if something happens, you're actually going to get paid out. So you know, they could easily recommend certain insurance brokers because they've had good luck with them or because they're easy to work with. I'm sure everyone who is above the age of about 25 at this point knows the hell that insurance can cause if they aren't, you know, on the top end of upstanding insurance companies. So, but like I said, I don't know what the turnkey provider would get from, like, you know, giving you an insurance broker, but call a few brokers. So absolutely, the home inspection should not come from the turnkey provider. Absolutely. The lender appraiser, I've never seen anything shady going on with that relationship. And quite frankly, those lenders are the only ones I've ever seen close the deals. So that makes sense why they recommend those. Insurance broker, I can't see what benefit they would get out of that. So you know, as far as providers having a hidden agenda, because a lot of people wonder about this. First, they're like, turnkeys seem too good to be true, or I think there's something about turnkeys where it's interesting you use the word control because this is a control dynamic that people aren't used to. So let's say you go buy your own distressed property, you rehab it, you put tenants in, you do whatever. All of that is in your control. When you buy a turnkey, a lot of people feel like they are out of control, which is not a cool feeling for them. I always say, I don't care how good the deal is, if you're going to lose sleep at night over it, don't invest. But a lot of people are not comfortable with turnkey because somebody else is doing all the work. They feel like they're completely out of control, and that's not comfortable. When in reality, yeah, other people are doing that stuff, but you are in control because there is so little about a deal or a property that you can't verify prior to closing that, you know, like they're not getting, who cares? Let them control it. It's the whole point of turnkeys. Let them control all the hard stuff. I don't want to do any of that. But as far as a hidden agenda from turnkey providers, I said, go back to, and this isn't just for you, this is for anyone watching, go back to my spiel last week, which would have been dated, the video from December 2nd, 2019. I really went on a tangent about how technically the turnkey provider doesn't matter if you know how to do the correct amount of due diligence. There is little, if anything, that the turnkey provider matters for. Period. Because when you verify and you do thorough due diligence, you're verifying everything on your own. You're checking to see if you're getting what's advertised. The only way at that point a turnkey provider can snow you is if you didn't do the correct amount of due diligence. Now, in that video and in that spiel, I made it, it is a reality that most of us don't know how to do that good of due diligence. So we really do want the turnkey provider to kind of be on the up and up and really help us out so we don't completely have to be responsible for all of that. But I really, there are a couple turnkey providers that have blatantly boned people, to put it nicely. Outside of those couple providers, I've never seen a turnkey provider with a hidden agenda. I have seen all of the conspiracy theories when people want to think that they have a hidden agenda. But if you think about it too, what I've seen is that people get scared when they're not in control. So they come up with all this like whatever. But again, you're buying a rental property. Like there is so little about that property that you can't verify. I mean, there's not really a reason for, again, outside of a couple of providers that I know kind of took some money and ran. I don't see hidden agendas with turnkeys, and that's not me, playing light and fluffy because I work with turnkeys. I'd be the first to tell you, like, I'm not the kind of person to be like, oh, they're all roses and rainbows. If turnkey provider, here's what I'll close this with. I think that if turnkey providers had a hidden agenda, they would do a lot better job at hiding it. Most turnkey providers, customer service sucks so bad. Like if they're trying to cover something up, I think they would adjust that. So, I mean, again, just kind of my thing. Eddie, have the turnkey providers and property managers of the properties that are listed on your website been vetted? I'm sure they have, but to what extent? That is a really good question because if you are looking into turnkeys, one of the most famous questions is, oh my God, who do I buy from? Who do I trust? Who, whatever. The kind of bad news about that is there is all sorts of different ranges of who's been vetted, who's not, who, like, it is actually a really complicated thing to know who to trust. I will speak, so again, if you guys aren't familiar with the players, if you got the ebook, these are all kind of broken down in it, but there's the turnkey investors, all of you guys buying the turnkeys. There are the turnkey providers. These people are the ones who are actually buying the houses. They are rehabbing the houses. They are placing the tenants. And when you buy a turnkey, you are buying from this person. So like the exchange is between you and this person who is the turnkey provider. So they're the ones with the properties directly. The turnkey marketers or turnkey promoters, people use the term interchangeably, which is the category I fall into, we're the middleman. We are between the turnkey investors and between the turnkey providers. I actually don't know if I have, I'm going to make another note of this. We may go a little bit longer today just because we have some really good stuff coming up. The benefits of working with a turnkey marketing company, like why not just go direct to the turnkey provider? Seems obvious. So I just made that for anyone tuning in. I'm kind of keeping a note. Some really good topics are coming up today. I'm making a note so I make sure that I hit all of them. So I just put that on there. It's to really dive into, in my opinion, what the benefits of working with the turnkey marketers are. So I may make that the finale for tonight if I can get to it. So I just put a star by it. But as far, so of the turnkey marketers, there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, somewhere in the like 6 to 10 range of how many turnkey marketing companies there are, whether it's a little more individual or bigger company or something. I don't know that number for sure, but of those people that I know that serve the role of turnkey marketer or turnkey promoter, meaning they are that middleman between the providers and the buyers, I know, because I know most of them personally, there is a range of, there are certain turnkey marketer promoters who will promote a particular provider and properties on their website and connect you with that provider, and they have never set foot at that provider's operation. They've never seen the properties in person. They've never met the provider in person. I just know for a fact they've never been there to tour the operations. On the other end of the spectrum, there are turnkey marketing companies who I work with, who absolutely will not promote a provider or one of their properties unless they have done full, extensive vetting on that company, including showing up there in person. And they don't just show up in person, see the properties, and run out the door. They spend like days with these companies. They meet all the players, the main property manager, the owner, the construction crews, the contractor, like all of the major players in the equation. They meet them, they spend time with them, they sit down in the office with them, they go tour properties, both pre-rehab and rehab. They get, so there's a spectrum of that due diligence or vetting, if you will. I work with the ones who do full vetting. So yes, all the properties on on my website. I was reading your question because I want to make sure you didn't say properties. The properties themselves, I don't want to say that we have vetted because I don't want anyone to think they don't have to go do due diligence. Like, you need to verify everything for yourself. But as far as the providers offering them, yes, the teams I work with have all been face-to-face with these people in the neighborhoods, in the properties, spent extensive amounts of time with them. Yeah, so that's who I work with. But there are other companies who don't do that. So that's only from the turnkey marketing promoting side. As far as to what extent, well, I guess I just kind of answered to what extent. Yeah, I'll stop there. I was going to kind of give a whole spiel on just, like if you're going direct to a provider, how do you vet, whatever. But yeah, all the properties have been vetted on mine. Chase, Elrazone, Jeffrey, Manpreet, thanks guys for joining. Sorry I didn't say hi sooner. Let's see. What if the provider won't make repairs that were recommended by your home inspection? You guys are asking the best questions tonight. I can't tell you how legit and awesome and pertinent and relevant every question you guys have asked is so far, including this one. Because I don't think this is cool because I feel like we're talking about everything that has not been talked about already. So this is cool. If a provider won't make the repairs that were recommended by your home inspection, I first would ask him why. So if you go, if you're buying a turnkey rental property, you hire your inspector is going to give you a report, a very obnoxiously thorough report. It's probably going to look extremely intimidating, and it's going to make you think you got scammed because it's going to be like, wait, I'm buying a turnkey rental property, everything should be fixed. Why do I have 7 pages of problems? That's just how it is. Like, if you think about an inspector, it's a CYA thing, cover your ass. He is going to put everything down to a missing nail in the floor. Like, everything is going to be listed in this inspection. I don't know that I've ever seen an inspection report come back on the best of properties with less than 7 pages, truly. So what you do at that point is, first of all, you don't freak out because it doesn't matter because you're not buying the house in that condition. You are then collecting a list of items from the report, and I say put everything in it. I don't care how big the repair is or how drastic or whatever. Put everything in this list, send it to a turnkey provider and say, hey, here's everything my inspector found. I want a turnkey property, so fix it. And if there's anything you can't fix or don't want to fix, let me know and explain why. So chances are, if that's essentially a checklist. That's the whole reason for the property inspection, is to determine a final checklist of punch list. What do they call it? Punch list items? It's a punch list. So that way it's the last checklist. They can just punch through that, fix everything, and then you verify it, and then you buy the property. So when the seller gets that list, I've seen it several times where they're going to be like, hey, yes, check, check, check. We don't really want to fix this one, because chances are they're going to give you a reason for it. If they don't give you a reason, you can ask. Just say, hey, why would you not fix that? And I don't want to say 9 times out of 10, because I don't really know if that's an accurate statistic, but most of the time that I've seen a provider explain why they don't want to fix a particular thing, it makes sense. Either it's something really small, or it's not usually relevant things. So for irrelevant things, I would find out the reason why, and then judge for yourself, do you agree or not? And you can contest it, say, yeah, I see your point, but like, this seems kind of serious to me. So you can do that. So have the dialogue with them. That's the big thing about the small things. So, I mean, let me take that back. Have a dialogue with them regardless. If it's small things, not as big a deal. Like if an outlet cover is missing, well, I mean, they'd probably put that on. It'd be, I'm looking at an outlet cover over here. That's not a big thing. But if it's something small, it's not as big a deal. Let's say that the roof only has 5 years left. And the property inspector says, yeah, you've only got 5 years left on this roof. I can tell you that no turnkey property should be sold with a roof that only has 5 years left. It defeats most of, what are the big ticket items on any property? Roof, plumbing, electrical, I feel like paint's expensive these days, but you know, like the big ticket items, water heater, none of those things should be scheduled to go out anytime soon. I mean, even within 10 years, they should either be brand new or have a lot of life left. I mean, like 10 years plus. So if the inspector comes back and says, hey, your roof has 5 years left, you're going to tell the provider, hey, dude, he says it only has 5 years left. The provider, if he says he doesn't want to replace that roof, you need to make a decision. Either he's going to give you such a good reason why he's not going to repair that, which I can't imagine what that reason would be for not repairing a roof that only has 5 years left, or replacing it, or you walk from the property. That's the end of it. So you don't want to just walk for little things, like, because again, those don't matter. Like you're going to get a little thing here and there on any property. But the big ticket items, those matter. And if they just flat out say that they're not going to repair it, you know, as I always say, anything that happens to a property, a turnkey property before you close is at the expense of the seller. Anything that happens to the property after you close is on you. This is the big reason I say don't buy a turnkey property without tenants, because you, like, anything that happens if they end up not paying as much in rent, or there's a big delay in finding tenants, or whatever the drama is, that's on you because you've closed the property. Like, sure, they may give you a guarantee or give you a convincing reason why, but they need to give you a really good reason why tenants aren't coming to that property for the same, it falls into the same thing. So I mean, just always keep that in mind. Whatever happens after you close on the property, unless the provider is really nice, it's at your cost. So do you want a roof that's going to go away in 5 years? No, that's going to be expensive. So the big thing, first have the dialogue, period, because a lot of people just freak out. They don't want to have the dialogue. They never whatever, and they just scream and run away, and they just left a perfectly good property. So have the dialogue. First find out why they don't want to fix it, and then make a decision about whether you agree with them, or, you know, how much you care, or, you know, just, you know, if you have a drastic question about it, email me or message me and I can help you. Where did I get, let me make sure no one else trying to say hi to. Okay, so next question. You guys are killing it today. We're actually coming up on the hour mark, but I'm going to keep going because we're on a roll. And we have Christmas coming up, so we're probably going to skip a couple weeks. So we'll get them all done today. David says, how are turnkey marketing companies paid? Are they paid by the provider or the investor? That is also a very good question we haven't talked about, because one thing I do want to be clear on is if you work with a turnkey marketing company who wants to charge you, does Roofstock charge you? I can't remember. There is a company who charges you. Is it Roofstock or Home Union or somebody? I think that's crazy, because the turnkey marketers get paid by the seller, by the turnkey provider. So I don't agree with companies who want to charge you to work with them. I'm sure maybe they're perfectly good companies, but there are so many good companies that won't charge you a dime. It's kind of part of the, I mean, again, I have this note of the benefits of working with a turnkey marketer. It's one of the benefits of the marketing model is that, like, if you come work with me, I charge you nothing to do so, unless you need like just hourly consultation or something. But if you just want to buy a turnkey, come to me. You get to work with me for free. You get to get my opinions for free, which may or may not be a good thing. You get my support for free. It's ongoing support. Even after you buy the turnkey, if something happens to it in 2 or 3 years, reach out to me. I'm at your disposal, all for free. That's part of the model. That's what, you know, I'm not going to charge you to do that when I can get paid on the other side. I do want to be really clear on, this goes back to that spectrum of how much the marketers vet the providers that they work with. I can't speak for all the marketing companies. I do know some companies who don't do a lot of vetting. I know the companies I work with do all the vetting possible. But also in that spectrum is, I've always said that in the early days when I started writing for Bigger Pockets, I was a much smaller website back then. People would accuse me of, if you come to me and you say, hey, I want to buy a turnkey, I'm going to send you to providers that I trust. And so people would say, oh, well, you're only going to send me to that provider because they'll pay you a referral fee. I was like, okay, fair opinion. However, it's not accurate, because what I can tell you is I have always said that I wanted to be a boutique company. I am only going to send you to companies that either I have bought through personally myself, or that I, for whatever reason, trust so much that I trust that I would send my mother to buy there. And for anyone who doesn't believe that, I've obviously a name in Turnkey. I've been around for quite a while, and I have had every turnkey company under the sun offer me referral fees, most of which are higher than I make from the companies I work with. And if I don't know the company and I haven't worked with them personally, I tell them no, it's not worth it to me to make more transactionally. I'm about long-term relationships. So it's more important for me to know who I'm referring for. And it's a long-term thing, because if you come to me and I send you to a company who totally screws you, you're never coming back to me, and you're probably going to bash me all over Bigger Pockets. So how am I making more money doing it? Like, it's going to tank me. Like, that's not in my whatever. Now, back to the spectrum of turnkey marketers, I can't say the same for everybody. I don't know how much different marketers are making from who. I don't know what relationships they have, if they have any. So it kind of goes back into that like vetting thing. I trust the people that I trust, and that's why I send you to them. Other marketing companies, I don't know. But like I said, most of the marketing companies make money from the turnkey provider, because if you picture the marketing company, they're basically offering, well, I keep kind of alluding to these benefits of working with the turnkey marketers. Basically, they are offering to the turnkey provider a bulk buying situation. So like, let's picture a hedge fund goes to a turnkey provider and buys properties. They're going to buy 200 properties, for example. That is really advantageous for the turnkey provider, right? Well, obviously you, the individual investor, are probably not going to go buy 200 properties from them. But when you are part of this collective of the turnkey marketing company, the marketing company themselves may send that provider enough buyers to buy 200 properties. So you see, like, it's a really important buying channel for that provider. So that's why the provider offers a referral fee to that marketing company. So again, it fits all into this business model of awesomeness, is you guys get free help, we get paid on the other side, and all's roses and rainbows, assuming everybody's on the up and up. So again, I can't speak to everybody for that, but I know I'm pretty picky about who I work with. So I hope that answered. But again, if any, let's see, did anyone? No. Oh, Margot said, I believe I paid $2,000 for roof stock, which was in your loan. That makes me dislike roof stock even more. I don't even know if I knew they charge. I want to say, is it Home Union that charges a fee? There are companies that charge fees, and I can't think of who they are right now. But if you see that, I mean, I've never heard of one of those companies that offers something so much better than all of the rest of the turnkey marketers that would be worth paying that. I can't say I'm super well versed on that or who offers what, but yeah, if you see that, I would not, I would say before you agree to work with a company that you have to pay them a fee, first shop around, see what everybody offers. And if that company offers something so much better than everyone else, cool, pay it. Like $2,000 or whatever is not a big deal. In the big scheme of things, if you get a really profitable investment. So I don't know, but yeah, most marketers aren't charging the buyers much. Eddie, yes, just the providers, except I already forgot what you said. Oh, the provider. Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're covered on that. Kalani says, have you heard of OmniKey Realty for the Texas turnkey market? I have not. I have not done anything in Texas as far as turnkeys in, God, probably 3 years, maybe. Let's see, when was the big Dallas boom? Was that 2014? After Dallas boomed really hard, most of the turnkey investors I knew that got Dallas right before it, we were working with turnkeys there. I mean, the appreciation that they experienced was huge. Like, I mean, these properties all increased like $40,000 almost overnight. It was a great time for Dallas. Houston had already kind of started getting lower on inventory at that point. But after the big Dallas boom, the problem with Texas is their property taxes and insurance are stupidly high. I know there are turnkeys going on down there right now, but the cash flow margins, honestly, are very slim, mostly because of, well, property taxes and insurance, but demand for Texas in general has gone through the roof, no pun intended. And inventory got really low. So I haven't done anything. I know a couple of providers who do stuff in Texas. I've not really cared to look into any of them or cared because the cash flow for me is just not there. And it's kind of more of the inventory is low and it's not really worth my time. Eddie says leads, they pay for leads. Are you talking about the providers or the marketers, or are you talking about something else? Let me know what you are talking about. So it's 6:05, so let me, since we're kind of on the topic of the marketing companies, I have a star next to here. I don't think I said that properly, but so I talked about the buyers, you guys, the turnkey marketers are the middlemen and the turnkey providers. A lot of people ask, oh, Kalani, is it booming again? Texas, as far as I know, Texas has already boomed, past tense. Booming, I don't know where it would boom to because I mean, maybe. If you're going to invest in a turnkey for appreciation, Texas is probably a good place to do it. That doesn't mean I think that it's going to appreciate, but like Kansas City or Indianapolis isn't going to have as much appreciation, but you're also sacrificing a lot of cash flow for Texas at this point. So booming, I don't know where it would boom to right now because the whole nation is boomed. Eddie, provider. Do the providers pay for leads? Yeah, I guess, I mean, if I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but pretty much, I mean, if they offer the turnkey marketer a referral fee, that means the turnkey marketer is sending them a buyer. So, I've just never heard it phrased of like paying for leads, because when I think of paying for leads, I think of like paying an amount to be given like a database of leads or something that they go pursue. But it is technically right where like if I send you to one of the providers, they have paid me for that lead. So yeah, I guess technically that's correct. So a lot of people ask me, why would I work with a turnkey marketing company versus just going straight to the provider themselves? Completely fair question. To bust myth number one, you are not going to get the property cheaper by going to the provider themselves than through a marketer. The only time I have seen that happen is with the shady providers. It was an under the table, what's the word? I'm blanking. Circumvention situation. I've only seen it in circumvention happen that the provider has sold the property cheaper than the marketer would offer it. On that note, chances are it's going to be the same price. Back in the day, the marketers oftentimes would cut deals with these providers saying, hey, we're about to bring you a lot of leads. Like, what can you do for our people? And they would offer so let's say you, there was property A and you could buy it through the marketer or the provider directly. Chances are back in the day, you would have gotten it cheaper going through the marketer because like I said earlier, when we were talking about our turnkey prices negotiable, which no, they are not. Oftentimes the prices were pre-negotiated by the marketers in those cases. So you would get it lower because it was, again, a benefit for the provider to say, yeah, we'll knock $1,000 or $2,000 off of the purchase price for all of your buyers because you're bringing us so many of them. It was a bulk model situation. So like, it's just like buying ketchup at Costco. You're going to get way cheaper cost per unit buying in bulk at Costco, big giganto ketchup things, than buying a single ketchup. My refrigerator's back here somewhere, I'm sure. than buying an individual catch-up. So same theory applies here. So no, you're not going to get the property cheaper by going direct to the provider. And it doesn't happen as much now because the providers don't have as much margin to play with as they did when everything was on sale. Nowadays, nothing's on sale. Everyone's expenses are tapped out. They can't even pay the marketers as much as they used to. The margins just aren't there because the cash flow margins aren't there. So nowadays, you're probably going to pay the same price between the marketer and the provider. So basically, there's no cost savings to going direct to the provider. So some of the other benefits that I see to working with the marketers, and call me biased if you want, because I am one of these marketers, but I hope you hear in my response why I mean, take it or leave it. I don't really care what you do with it, but here's my, and honestly, when I started in turnkeys, I was a buyer. I wasn't in the marketing position. I wasn't in the selling position. I was just buying turnkeys. And this is also why I felt better going through a marketer than a provider. So it's not just me, you know, being in this position. Let's see, I want to make sure I hit all the points. We talked about the price. I'm just going to confuse myself doing that. So some of the other benefits, first of all, if you go to, okay, we already talked about this. How do you know how to vet a turnkey provider? Have any of you figured that out well? Because I've been in this forever and I'm not even that good at it. I work with people who are smarter than I am in a lot of arenas. We work together to vet these people. I don't do it on my own for this very specific reason, is that it's not easy to do. So the turnkey marketers, hopefully, again, this is a spectrum. Not all turnkey marketers are cut from the same cloth, but the ones who do a lot of due diligence and the vetting and all that, they are experts in doing this. They are experts in market research. They are experts in vetting turnkey providers. Why would you not use their expertise? So if you go to a turnkey provider, the direct provider, and you say, hi, I'm an investor and I would like to invest in rental properties. What city do you think would be best for me? They're going to be like, the one I work in, Memphis. Like, they work in certain markets. So they're not portfolio thinkers. Whereas the marketers, first of all, they work with several different providers. So again, like if you come to me and you're like, hey, I want to buy a turnkey, I'll be like, cool. What are your interests? What are your goals? What's your budget? Do you like urban row houses? Do you like suburban? You know, what are you comfortable with? Because I work with different ones, I can say, well, based on everything you told me, I think this market and this provider would be a really good fit for you. You can't get the unbiased advice. And some people could say I'm biased for saying that because I only work with certain providers, but there's a reason I only work with these certain providers, because I trust them. But if you ask a direct provider, hey, you know, I'm thinking about building out my portfolio, where should I buy? They're gonna be like, right here. Like, because that's where they sell. They're the technicians in the equation. They're not the portfolio strategist, bigger picture type of due diligence people. So that's one thing you're getting with the marketers. You're getting a heck of, depending on who you work with, you're getting a heck of a lot of expertise. You're getting less biased information. You are not having to hardcore vet the providers. You just have to do due diligence on the property. Whereas if you are a random person and you show up to a turnkey provider's doorstep, how are you going to decide if they're legit or not? You know, like, have at it. It's not easy. So you're getting a lot of built-in expertise and paying them nothing for it. Most of the marketers are licensed real estate agents, so you're basically getting a free real estate agent who's experienced in this space. They're not officially working on your behalf and they can't legally represent you, but they have your back. You can ask them questions at any point. If any challenges come up, you can ask them about it. If you get the contract from the turnkey provider and you're like, that seems weird, you can ask them. Like, they are your buddy through the whole thing. Again, and you're paying them nothing. Here's a very unofficial benefit. And it's unofficial because I can't say it for sure. I can't say it's official. I can't say it happens in every case, but I've seen this kind of go on over the years. So let's picture. You show up on the turnkey provider's doorstep and you buy one property from them and they completely screw you. and you're like, oh, I'm so mad. Like, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. Like, you're not hurting them. Again, turnkey providers don't need your business. Like, so you and your one house go away, like, bye. But if you come in through the marketing company and you buy one property and they screw you somehow, they're not just screwing you out of your one property, they're teetering a huge business relationship. So if the marketing company is bringing them 200 property purchases, for example, and they screw one of those, they're risking losing all 200. So my unofficial benefit to say about working with a turnkey marketing company, again, it's not official. It may not be true for every marketing company, whatever, but you have some leverage. Like, you're coming in as this like bigger buying power, even though it's still just you and your one little property. You're coming in as a buying power. It would be dumb for that provider to screw with that buying power. It just would. So I feel like I'm leaving out some really obvious things. Like I've said in the past, customer service is not a turnkey provider's strong suit for the most part, with a couple company exceptions, but customer service is not their thing. We have had providers who offer phenomenal properties and deals that we have had to ban from speaking directly via email to our clients because they're terrible. Like, we've had, but this is way back in the day, we had one of the best providers we knew. I even bought from him. Best properties. I've talked a lot about that property. He made several people cry, and we're like, seriously? Like, because he's a hard hitter. Like, this is investing world, people. It's not customer service world. It's not primary home buying. Emotions are not supposed to be part of this. And this guy would just smash people, and we had to ban him from talking to people because we were like, look, dude, like, stop. So the turnkey marketing companies can act as a customer service buffer. So customer service buffer and support buffer. It's not just you having to figure everything out by yourself. You have this team of brains with you, a team of brains who has a vested interest in you having a good experience, because if you don't have a good experience, not only are you not going to work through them again, but you're going to tell everyone you know, and probably all of Bigger Pockets, not to work with them. So it is a turnkey marketing company's in their best interest to help you. It's not always a guarantee, but to help you have the best experience you possibly can. Why would you not take that service for free? So, that's really the big thing is, I just don't know why you wouldn't work with a marketing company, because there's, to me, no downside whatsoever. You're not paying more. You're paying nothing to have this whole new added layer of expertise, support, customer service, leverage, so that's my take. Again, call me biased because I am in the turnkey marketing side of things. Yeah, but you can take it or leave it. I just don't see what the benefit of going direct to a provider would be unless you have some kind of established relationship with them. But to me, you're on your own at that point. You're on your own for figuring out due diligence. Are you buying in the best market? I don't know. They're not the best people to tell you because that's the only place they sell. What if a challenge comes up? Who's going to be there to support you? What if you feel like the turnkey provider or the property manager is not in support of you anymore? Now who are you going to go to? So I assume, like, teamwork makes the dream work. Like, why would I try and do all of this on my own when I could have literally free support in doing so? So, that one took it out of me. Elrazone, hi back. For anyone who joined late, I'm in a beanie because I literally jumped on the computer after a 5-hour road trip from skiing and snowboarding all weekend. And I have helmet hair currently. So Eddie says, can you walk us through an example of how to analyze a turnkey property? I'm actually not going to do that on this one because we're already 20 minutes over time. Not to say I won't do it. When did we talk about this one? There is a post, and I actually tried to find this the other day. There was a post from a while ago. I'm going to try typing in due diligence. There are some posts. There was one from November 8th, June 22nd. June 27th, I think is the one that I was thinking of. Okay, so write this down. June 27th from Samuel and June 19th from Jay. Both of those are asking directly about the due diligence on a property. Let's see. You talked about analyze a turnkey property. Oh, you said analyze a turnkey property. I was thinking I had due diligence in my head. So if anyone's interested in the due diligence items, go to those posts June 19th and June 27th. Analyze a turnkey property. David mentioned referring to my analysis on a napkin. Thank you. It's posted in there somewhere, or let me put, I'm going to add a couple articles that I referred to in here. That is one of them. Either it just went out a week or two ago, or it's about to go out, the analyzing a property, the numbers on a napkin. Real quick, analyzing a turnkey property, first just focus on the numbers first, because that's easy. You can rule out a lot of stuff without having to figure things out. You can just see what the numbers are and be done with it. Analyzing after that, you want to look at the market, the neighborhood. Where else have we talked about this? One thing I'll say, just because we don't have a lot of time, is this is not really answering your question, but for me personally, one of the easiest ways to analyze, if you will, and obviously some more analysis happens after that, but I start by shopping around. I will look at different properties in different markets. I'll look at different properties within a same market. The more I shop around and the more kind of providers and whatever I see, the more I kind of have a better picture of like what seems like it's a good deal. Like, what am I getting for this amount of money and these returns versus over here? What are the benefits of this market over this market? That's how I start, because a lot of people, I'm a big picture person. A lot of people, the most famous thing is like, how do I do a detailed analysis of a market? Crime stats, population, demographics, schools, jobs, like, cool. All of those things matter. But I would say probably 9 times out of 10, when people get all of that information, they don't actually know how to interpret it. Great, you get all of these details, but what's the big picture? Like, I always start with the big picture. So, and this is saying a lot because I have an engineering background. I have a master's degree in engineering. So as far as, if you want to talk analyzing, I can get pretty hardcore on that, and don't even get me started on spreadsheets, because I will make spreadsheets all night long. But coming personally from an engineer, I'm not a fan of overanalyzing, which I'm sure my mother would argue that that's not always true. Certain situations, I prefer the big picture. So I start with the big picture first and then drill down a little bit. So I don't know if that completely, I'm sure it doesn't completely answer your question, because walk you through an example of how to analyze, that's a hard thing to say. I would just say start shopping around first. Start picking out things that jump out. Oh, I guess I'm going to walk you through it. If it were me and I was shopping for a property right now, I would look at several different markets, several different properties. What do they all offer? I personally like cute houses. I'd see where the cute houses are. What are the returns on them? What are the purchase prices? How are the neighborhoods? What are the difference in the markets? Who am I having really good communication with over others? I just kind of look at it all, and I start picking out the things that I like the look or feel of. I don't want to say the look, I mean the look of the deal. You know, I kind of narrow it down just based on the things that really jump out at me and call me, if you will. And then of those things, then I start getting a little more detailed. Then I may pick out like, hey, you know, I think I'm really digging this. Okay, no, I like this market. I kind of like what they offer. Go there. Then, you know, so like wean it down, if you will, instead of coming up with like these little tiny and this isn't you, this is for everybody, these little detailed tiny analysis, because it doesn't give you a big picture. Start with the biggest picture possible and then get into the details, because like during due diligence and all that kind of stuff, you can check everything you want, you can check into market fundamentals, but like, let's say you're thinking about Chicago for a turnkey market. If you do all of this research on Chicago and you think you kind of have an understanding, which you probably don't anyways, and then you're like, oh, well, I don't really know of any turnkey providers there. You just spent a lot of time doing a detailed analysis for nothing. That's why I say, like, I guess I do have an answer for you. Start big and then wean it down. That's how I do analysis, because I don't like starting from the details because I don't understand them. Again, coming from an engineer, I need the big picture and then taper it down. Okay, we're gonna start. Hey, Eddie, thanks for the napkin link. I can cross that off my list of what to include. All right, so I'm going to finish with what's on here, and then we're going to call it quits today. Kalani, since turnkeys are new, do you include or eliminate vacancy rate and maintenance repair when calculating numbers for cap rate? Turnkeys are not new. The major appliances should be new or have most of their life left. They are freshly rehabbed or renovated. I know of 0 new construction turnkeys right now. Not to say you can't buy a new construction turnkey property, but I don't know of any providers that are offering sparkling new construction. So they're not new. But to your point and to your question, if the whole property is freshly or fully rehabbed or renovated, do you eliminate vacancy rate and maintenance and repair? Absolutely not. There are some turnkey marketing companies who do not include those numbers in their calculations, and to me that's a big red flag. How new a property is has nothing to do with vacancy. There will always be vacancies as long as you have a rental property, unless you're one of the few that gets really lucky and has a 30-year tenant or more. Never eliminate vacancy rate because you're always going to have it. And then maintenance and repair. No, you never eliminate that, because the newest, nicest property is going to have repairs or maintenance. Like it's just all, it's a house. That's how that functions. But to your point, if you were in today's market going to buy a $60,000 turnkey property, which I highly don't recommend, if you buy a $60,000 property in today's market versus a $120,000 property, obviously I could be comparing apples and oranges, so comparing similar properties here, I would absolutely budget more maintenance estimate for a higher maintenance estimate for the $60,000, because that is a low-end cheap property. Period. You're going to have tenants who probably don't take care of it as much, and there's going to be more issues. That's why it's $60,000 versus the $120,000 may not be as big a deal. So you may want to adjust your maintenance and repairs rates. But I would never eliminate those, because then it's just not, that's not how reality works. I use 10% for vacancy. Do I? I thought it was 7%. I'll have to look I haven't looked at the properties in a second, I don't think. Well, I mean, I see them all the time, but I haven't actually looked. I would check with, I saw a video of me doing this right now. I was like, wait, that's on there already? I haven't even finished. It's live. 7% or 10% for vacancy, you can always do as part of your due diligence. Check with the property manager. Be like, hey, what are you seeing for vacancy rates? Vacancy rates are going to vary in different locations and all that. We typically use, I thought it was 7%, maybe it's 10% across the board, just to put something in there. Hopefully you're not getting tenants more than, you hopefully aren't putting new tenants in every single year. So it just, I would talk to the property managers about confirming that. So let's finish off. Eddie has some kind words. So I'm so glad this is recorded. Yeah, me too. Because there's no way I can keep up. Wow, I've got work to do. To your point, yes, it is recorded. We do put it on YouTube now, but it also will be in the group, and super stoked to have you. It seems like a lot now, but truly, and it may be hard to believe right this second, but once you've gone through the turnkey process once, and once you've bought one turnkey, it's like smooth sailing after that, because it's the same thing over and over again. So even if it seems overwhelming now, this is, it's not going to last forever. Like once you kind of start taking it in, you'll realize it's, I will say there's a lot less to it than you think there is right now. I mean, there's a lot to it, but it gets easier. So, I mean, and it's fun. It's an exploration phase at this point. It's a journey. I spent 5 years trying to figure out how to get out of corporate. Obviously, that was a little bit different than just real estate, but it took me that long to figure stuff out. So when you do take the time up front to really kind of learn it and understand it, it will serve you tons later when you've taken the time, versus the people who just like, and not to knock anyone who just dives in, because I was a diver. Actually, now that I think that, I'm a total diver. I'm more of like a dive in, think more later type of thing, or figure it out later. Well, I said that it took me 5 years to get out of corporate too, but it's, you can dive in. Absolutely, because one of the fastest ways to learn with real estate investing, and this is going to happen to you regardless, is you're going to learn. It's on the job training. You're going to learn from mistakes. You're going to learn from things you wish you had done differently. You're going to learn from doing deals. But so if you just dive right in, that's cool. Your learning curve is just going to be harder, and it may cost you a little bit more money. But when you take that initial that time initially to really kind of dig into it, learn all this different stuff, you're going to be golden. And like I said, once you learn it once, like running numbers, for example, on the napkin, that napkin I literally did in probably 5 minutes. And it's posted somewhere too. I need to put resources somewhere. We have our rental property calculator, so you can literally just plug the numbers in. But like I said, once you learn this stuff once, it becomes fast. So, I appreciate where you are, because I've been there, but it'll get easier and pretty straightforward. And then Eddie, this is my first Facebook Live, and I've learned so much. Thank you. You're very welcome. I'm so glad to have you. I think we just became friends on Facebook, right? So anybody watching this on YouTube outside of the group, this video is obviously posted in the group. This Facebook group is Turnkey Rental Properties. So if you're seeing this outside of the group, come join the group. We would love to have you. We are trying to do this live every Monday. Obviously, my life kind of gets in the way sometimes. Holidays get in the way. But we would love to have you. The conversations lately have been awesome. There's so much energy going in the group right now. I love it, truly. These things are so fun. I just went 30 minutes over what I was planning to. I love talking to you guys. Appreciate all of you for joining. And again, I apologize for my hat, because I came straight from a skiing road trip. I'm about to go take my hat off, but you guys aren't going to see it because it's massive helmet hair. So I think that is it. If you have, and Eddie too, this is for you and anyone watching, if you rewatch the video, or you go back through things, or you go to sleep tonight and you're like, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, as she said, or, oh, I should have asked that. Ask it. Either send me a message, or better yet, make it a post in the group, because chances are, if you're wondering it, a lot of other people are probably wondering it also, or maybe they don't even know that they're wondering it yet. So post in the group. This is not just Ask Me on Facebook Live. It's Ask Me anytime. This is the whole point of this group. I want to open discussions. I want to help you guys as much as I can. If at any point, oh, Eddie, I just saw your comment. Is Facebook Live happening? It happened. What was I about to say? Oh, and if at any point you guys have any wish list items, or suggestions, or recommendations for the group, if there's other things, resources that you guys would like to see from me, if there is something I could be doing in the group that would be helpful for you, I am all ears. I want to make this group for you guys. So you tell me what it is you need. I can adjust accordingly. I'm just taking guesses as to what I think might be helpful, but you guys know better than I do at knowing what would be helpful. So again, invite your friends. We are only 22 people away from 500. This is insane, because when did the group start? Later summer, I think. It has grown and been so much more active than I even could have imagined. So I am really excited and so thankful for all of you guys. Reach out if you want to see properties, if you want recommendations. But again, if you have questions, anything you want. So on that note, Kathy and Melanie, we're literally signing off right now. But it'll be posted to the group in, I think it only takes like 5 or 10 minutes, and there's an hour and a half worth of content. We did a long one tonight, and there were some amazing questions. So definitely check out the replay. And on that note, I'm going to say bye to you guys. I think we do have, we are going to do one next week. So December 16th, we will do a live. And then after that, we're probably going to skip 2 weeks, because that's Christmas and New Year's. So whatever questions you get, like, build them all up this week, either post them or save them for next week, and we will hit them before the holidays. So again, reach out. Oh, one thing I was going to say real fast is for my birthday a couple weeks ago or a week ago, or I guess it was a couple weeks ago, I put the ebook on sale. If any of you guys did buy that, I would really appreciate a review on Amazon. That would be awesome. And give an honest review. If you hated it, that's cool. Like, no biggie deal, no biggie deal. I was supposed to say no biggie and no big deal, but yeah, I'm all for honest feedback. So, David, you're very welcome. I just got the thanks for your time. And on that note, we're going to sign off, and I will see you guys next Monday, the 16th, same time, same place, and I will not have this hat on, I promise. So, you guys have a great week. Reach out if I can be of any help, and we will talk soon. All right? Goodbye.